This is the book I'll be reviewing. It's India Wins Freedom. Uh, it looks at the historic freedom struggle from the unique perspective of one of the most prominent faces of India independence movement, Maulana Abu Kalam Azad. It's actually an autobiography of him where he depicts the political discourse of Indian independence from the period 1935 to 1948 in his own words. Actually, this was supposed to be, a 2 or 3 volume books, but unfortunately, he passed away in 1958. So we couldn't see, the history after that, what happened. So this book, basically, The India Wins Freedom, briefly touches upon his early life, his family, his education and travel, indoctrination into revolutionary politics, and his disillusionments with it. It believes, it brings alive the hope and sorrows of the nationalist leaders as they fought to realize the collective dream of our freedom from British. This book comprehensively covers like the period that I mentioned, 1935 to 1948. Interestingly, I mean, when I look at this book, the book is classified into some, I think you might see it's classified into 16 chapters, right from the day Maulana Azad assumed Congress, president of the Congress, and then the war in the Europe where the World War II was happening, and then the Cripps mission, because he was one of the Congress president from 1940 to 46, where he dealt with 3 important meetings with the British in the Cripps mission, the Simla conference, and the cabinet mission. Unfortunately, a lot of our history books have done injustice to him by giving only space in the footnotes, in spite of him being the president of the Congress from 1940 to 46 and sole representative of Congress in these 3 major missions during the British government. He comes as a person who candidly, expresses his opinion in his book without thinking about how the people will judge him, and therefore also concede his blunders too. Also, for example, in this book, basically, he writes about, in some of the places, what are the mistakes that he has done as the president of the, Congress, where, he says that he should have continued as the president of the Congress after 1946, then the blunder of partition might not happen, or else he should have nominated at least Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's name instead of forwarding Nehru's name, or, not accepting any position in the interim government, and kind of fighting against the government against the partition which was happening. He also wonderfully gives a nuanced understanding of Muslim League, its ups and downs, and the circumstances where the Congress leaders did blunders which were later exploited by Jinnah for his own goals. For example, in 1937, Mahatma Gandhi had given him the title Qaid-e-Azam in 1937, where Jinnah actually used that and tried to use the sympathy of Mahatma Gandhi over there. Like Abdul Kalam, Abu Kalam also gives in detail, us the clear picture of how important the leaders came into an acceptance with inevitability of partition and the events before it. Like, for example, Sardar Patel in 1947 became a supporter of partition. Unfortunately, many of the people, sorry,
I think you've been muted. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
he was on mute.
Yeah. You can continue.
Okay. So I was on mute for the whole session, Sadbhai, or only for this particular thing?
Now, actually, for past 10-20 seconds.
What I'm saying is that we believe that the partition ka main architect was only Muhammad Ali Jinnah, but here in this book, India Wins Freedom, it's his opinion and it's his perspective, where he says that maybe Jinnah has initiated the conversation, but Nehru and Patel were equally responsible for the partition. Uh, and then he talks about a lot of other factors where he still believes that when the British were trying to propose the cabinet mission plan, it should have been accepted, but it should have been implemented in the letter and spirit. We could have avoided the partition, but we went, the Jinnah and Nehru went on to divide the army, and then what happened later, we all know that after the 1947 partition, a lot of people reportedly, a lot of the people died in that. Maulana Azad also makes a point that there was an apprehension among the Muslims on their status if the leadership was largely Hindus. His reasoning here is spot on, that rather than partition constitutional safeguards, federal structure of states and strong leadership would have been provided the safeguards, and that is being worked out towards. He points to the mistakes Nehru had made on 2 occasions where he could not arrive at power in sharing the states, with the Muslim League, and later in 1946 mentioned in public that the cabinet plan will be improvised as needed. already Mr. Jinnah was unhappy with this cabinet plan, and then the agreement with Nehru failed, and it led to partition. I know what happened in the partition. He describes very detailed in one of the chapters, where he talks about the cons of the partition, the large scale violence, dislocation of people, mixed population in so many places. In one of the chapters where the general elections for interim government was held, out of the 5 provinces, only in 2 of the provinces the Muslim majority was seen. Apart from that, the lot of the Muslims have supported the United India, which is not being kind of said these days. The people keep on saying that Muslims choose to stay in Pakistan and Bangladesh, then why are they staying here still? But unfortunately, a lot of the Muslims had again had opposed that two nation theory, and a lot of the blame goes on the Mountbatten and Jinnah at the end. But a lot of the leaders from India were also responsible, for this particular partition. And in one of the next chapters, where he talks about, kind of like being the Congress president, he actually shared a lot of the meetings and send in the missionaries. And his close confidant was Mahatma Gandhi. He used to, whenever there was some issues in the meeting, he describes in his book about his experiences talking to Mahatma Gandhi and trying to, kind of reach a conclusion on that. Mahatma Gandhi was a believer in non-violence. During 1942, when the Quit India movement was happening and the non-cooperation movement was happening, when suddenly Mahatma Gandhi took back, because of the Chori Chora incident, had stopped the non-cooperation movement. A lot of the people, were from the Congress were arrested and put in jail. That actually, kind of weakened the Congress and strengthened the Muslim League. So he was, kind of disagreeing with Mahatma Gandhi, saying, why did he, take back the Quit, non-cooperation movement, which led to a lot of arrest of the prominent Congress leaders, and the Muslim League became strong. And Muslim League, kind of started putting their, polarizing the people. So he was of the opinion that the United India was the only solution for the people in this region to live together, and we can have a lot of harmony amongst us. He was of the opinion that the provinces should, like Muqtadir was suggesting in his previous book, that the provinces should be strengthened with a lot of federal powers, and the center should have a very minimum power. But unfortunately, that was again after the partition. We can see what's happening now. What I really liked about this is that in this book is that Maulana Azad was having conversation and disagreements with a lot of leaders, including Nehru, Gandhi, Sardar Patel, and Subhash Chandra Bose, which have been really written nicely in this book. What I feel is that, apart from what I've realized, is that the people in those times were allowed to dissent. Disagreeing with each other was a norm. Yet to be together yet they were all together in all the functions and all these meetings of the Congress sessions. These were the true plural characters of those leaders, which we have to continue. Like these are the principles that our forefathers have given us, and we owe them a lot. Unfortunately, in present times, the dissent and the freedom, liberty, and all are kind of subverted, as in one of the questions it was mentioned. I actually, I found it very interesting while I was reading about him. Some 30 pages of this book were added. He has written very clearly because he didn't want the criticisms to be read by these people, like against him, against whom he has written in this book. But like he had asked them to kind of present this only after 30 years, once he's passed away, to add this content into the book. This is by kind of what I can say is that he kind of kind of took care of them, took care of his their thoughts while writing about their criticism. But what I feel is that if you'd have raised his voice that time, the country would not have faced the wrath of partition, and we'd have been in unified India. I mean, like, unfortunately, there were very few of them, and Muslims were always sidelined even during the freedom movement, and he couldn't voice his opinion that time. I think there's one, like, one of the speeches which is being written here, which he gave right after the Independence Day on the occasion of Eid al-Azha from the Jamia Masjid. I just want to read out 4 lines, which says that without determination, nothing can be done. Wavering minds and faltering steps will never carry us forward in the path of progress. We must think before we take a step, but once we decide, hesitation is not a virtue but a sign of definite weakness. These words will surely depict the virtue and character of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Azad was his pen name to embark his freedom from all the orthodox repression that would come in way to bind him. So this is like a composite review that I gave about the book. I didn't get into much details about it, but he has written very nicely about he being the Congress president, his experience in Ahmednagar jail, he being, kind of a mediator in Cripps mission in, Shimla conference and in the cabinet mission with negotiating with the British. A lot of these factors don't come into our history books these days. Like these, kind of like there's 1 or 2 paragraphs of the cabinet mission, and then there's a small footnote that Maulana Azad has written. But yes, written in very detail what kind of conversation happened in those, conferences and meetings, and what happened, what were the decisions that were unfurled over there. I think this is very important because we have read our history mostly from, the people who have written after our independence. But this is like a memoir which is being written, by the man himself who was at the helm of affairs at that point of time. I think it is very important for us, all of us, to, at least read his perspective, what he says. I think, and his account, what did he feel as a Muslim at that point of time, and, see the sacrifices that he has made for the nation. Close the review because it's just the one book, and which he has written very nicely, focus mostly on the partition, where he says that the partition can be avoided if some of the decisions would have been taken. So if anybody have any questions or anything, that I can take that, so or else we can move on. Saad bhai?
Yeah, thank you for that. This was hello. Yeah, thank you for that. That was really very interesting discussion. Can you hear me?
Yes, Saad bhai, I can hear you.
Okay. So I would just like to invite anyone else who's listening to please share your own comments on this as well. In the meantime, there's another book that I have called The Spirit of India. This is written by Ramin Jahanbegloo, who's actually written a few books for the Oxford India paperback series. So I'd like to read something about Maulana Abul Kalam Azad from this chapter, which I think would be very interesting. Because, I mean, the name Maulana, I mean, he was from a religious background, from a religious education background, right? I mean, he's also written commentaries on the Quran. And in fact, in his commentary in the Quran, you can, I mean, the author over here is saying that Maulana Azad says that the unity of mankind is the primary aim of religion. And the author even cites Zakir Hussain, the former president of India, the third president of India. And I mean, what Zakir Hussain said about Maulana Azad was that the greatest service which the Maulana did was to teach people of every religion that there are two aspects of religion. One separates and creates hatred. This is the false aspect. The other, the true spirit of religion, brings people together. It creates understanding. It lies in the spirit of service, in sacrificing self for others. It implies belief in unity, in the essential unity of things. I guess this is a very important aspect as well, right?
As you've triggered in this book, actually, where in the prologue, that's not the chapter. He says about his early life and education. His grandparents, had come to India during the Babur's period, and they were working as the prime ministers in one of the units. I mean, like that time, it was mostly, ministers and the central minister and the prime minister for a unit. So after spending, 200 years and all, when his father was one of the, a head of a territory and a minister of a territory, so he realized that, there was a lot of, that was a decline of the Mughal period also, and there were a lot of infightings happening between the Mughal emperors. He decided to move to Makkah. Unfortunately, he was, trapped by the Nawab of Bhopal, and then he died in, Bombay. Later, his grandfather took him to Makkah and they settled there. And Maulana Azad was born, born and brought up in Makkah. And in the later period, they had to move into Calcutta for his grandfather's treatment in one of the hospitals. And then he continued his service and legacy here from the Calcutta. So basically, he was asked that, to not to give the Western education because his father did not believe in the Western education. And he was being taught the theology, Islamic theology at home, and very nicely written in the prologue about how did he, build his experiences in different subjects. With the Persian and Arabic, he has built his expertise in geography, astronomy, and arithmetic. So, and then he kind of expanded his knowledge, and his comments on the Islamic theology are well read. And as you were mentioning the other day, that he has written a whole a chapter or a book on Surah Fatiha.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, he really comes off as a very robust intellectual in his work. I mean, even on the commentary that on Fateh that you're alluding to, right? Even there,
Right.
he engages quite extensively with Indian philosophy, with Hindu philosophy as well. For example, there's a book by another president of India, S. Radhakrishnan, uh, whose book Indian philosophy is supposed to be like a classic in the field, and Mulana Abul Kalam Azad gives a lot of references of that book in his commentary on the Quran. And I mean, he has very robust knowledge of various traditions as well. So, I mean, one more point I'm interested in is, I mean, from an education minister point of view, what contributions would you say? I mean, he had in those,
Yeah.
in that.
So Maulana Azad was also one of, like India's first education minister. He was a great visionary because he himself was a scholar. He has read so many of things. And not many of them know that he was the architect of Indian Institute of Technologies in India and also IIMs in India. He laid out the structure for MHRD, the Ministry of Human Resource Development. With that, he was a kind of a person who used to think beyond, like 10 to 20 years beyond, and he was very quiet. He was not, a person who used to give like not, he was not known, kind of to get into on stage and speak. He was very quiet, and he used to give very, like one dollar he used to, speak. It was of quality. His like when he was like that's the reason he was assigned Ministry of Education HRD in the interim government, and also post independence. So he has been a great contributor in that sense, and also establishing the various boards and all stuff. But that's not being written, unfortunately, in this book, because that's been written in the last chapter in a few lines by the translator Humayun Jabir, Humayun Kabir, who has kind of written the last parts of the book. But I thought that it would be much in detail, but unfortunately we have very less in this book. Like when you look at a lot of his details, you'll find much about him. And what I find about him is that he being a Maulana, and like there's a image that I get in mind. I've read it a lot of times. There's Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was advocating for a two-nation theory, and there's Maulana Azad, who is who has completed Quran and who has done everything. So a person who actually does not advocate for a two nation theory, but Maulana Azad wants to kind of stay with the Indians, stay with the brothers here, stay in the secular harmony. But unfortunately, there's another person with a completely Western education, with the complete Western education, Mr. Jinnah, where he kind of talks about a different nation and partition. There were two distinct qualities you can clearly see between Jinnah and Azad.